Discussion of activities of Department of Homeland Security in Lincoln County. Andrew, I'm going to let you kick us off on this.
Oh boy. All right. Yes. All right. So before I start, I would like to just ask for some patience. I have some prepared remarks that I've drafted up, and they'll take me a few minutes to get through. I also just wanted to acknowledge and thank Mayor Kaplan from Newport, who is on the call here today. I know that they are dealing with this in a much more direct manner than we are, or at least they have been impacted very directly and very publicly over these past couple of weeks. And so I certainly appreciate him being here with his perspective on this matter. I asked for this item to be placed on tonight's agenda after attending last week's special meeting at Newport City Hall and seeing the outpouring of community feedback, because I believe that the real and potential changes happening in Lincoln County demand immediate attention. And I want to be clear at the outset, my concerns are not based on politics, but rather on what I see as likely outcomes if the relationship between Lincoln County and the Department of Homeland Security continues on its current path. No matter your political perspectives, there is real cause to be concerned about our community's future. The Department of Homeland Security has increased its focus on Lincoln County in recent weeks. Of specific importance, DHS and its contractors have made efforts to quickly build a detention center for Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Newport, and DHS, which oversees Coast Guard operations, has already relocated the search and rescue helicopter previously in Newport right before the start of crabbing season. Dungeness crabbing is one of the deadliest professions in the U.S. While there's an average of 124 deaths per 100,000 workers in commercial fishing in this country, the West Coast crabbing industry experiences about 320 per 100,000 workers. So that's nearly triple the national fishing average, which is already a widely known dangerous profession. The search and rescue helicopter that was moved from Newport is now 30 minutes away by air, which is often the difference between life and death in emergencies at sea. Our local Fishermen's Wives organization said last week, it's not just a matter of chance that lives will be lost if the search and rescue helicopter is not returned to Newport. I can't think of any community, this is slightly aside, I apologize, this is all in bullet form. I can't think of any community where the addition of a detention center has had a positive impact locally, or even no impact at all on the tourism industry of that area. There's a reason why detention facilities of all kinds are typically constructed in more remote areas than Newport. There is no Guantanamo by the Bay Resort and Casino, as beautiful as the beaches of Cuba may be. People will choose not to come to our community for their next vacation if we become widely publicized home to an ICE detention center. And it will be publicized. It has already reached national media audiences over the last week. That means we can expect that the impact on our tourism is already present. Reduced tourism will absolutely affect our bottom line as a community. Local businesses that rely on tourism will be at risk. Jobs will be lost. I've mentioned in previous city council meetings, Toledo has an unemployment rate over 7% compared to the state and county averages, which are a little over 4%. That was well before the closure of one of our largest employers in the county, Rogue Ales, last week. We simply cannot afford to see more people out of work. And we know with absolute certainty that people who work in Newport live in Toledo and vice versa. This is as much a Toledo matter as it is a Newport matter. I mentioned at the beginning of these remarks that I don't see this as a Republican versus Democrat issue here as much as it might feel like it. I have a lot of appreciation for many in our community who want stronger immigration enforcement and have shared on social media in the last 2 weeks that support ICE operating closer to home. If you're a property owner in Lincoln County, you have good reason to be concerned about the placement of a detention facility here. A study published earlier this year by North Carolina State University showed that the addition of a correctional facility can lead to a reduction of nearby property values by an average of 20%. That's enough to put many homeowners into negative equity. Nobody wants that. Whether or not you are in support of immigration enforcement in the way it is currently being carried out by the Department of Homeland Security, putting a detention center in Newport is just bad business. It hurts too many aspects of our local and regional economy. The costs overwhelmingly outweigh the gains. So if you are in support of more immigration-related detention centers, even one in Oregon, I hope you will at the very least, join me and others in saying, just not here. Putting one in Newport will likely cause irreversible harm to our economy in a very real, tangible way. In December of last year, Toledo City Council discussed a letter we all received called the Brown Roundup, which encouraged stalking people based solely on the color of their skin or the language they speak. I was at that meeting as a counselor-elect, and I watched the recording of it again this morning as a reminder. In that meeting, there appeared to be a consensus to draft an official declaration from the city against the contents of the Brown Roundup letter, and that declaration would be discussed at the first meeting of January. And whether you were here or not, I'm sure you can put the timing together and recognize that at that same time, we were facing other very large and immediate challenges. And unfortunately, that topic of the declaration never came back to council. Now is the time we need such a declaration. The concerns raised in that letter last year are no longer abstract. They're at our doorstep. We need to show our compassion, that everyone who is in our community is welcome and safe here, no matter where their family comes from or what language they speak. More than anything, I believe that we need to tell the Department of Homeland Security that putting the lives of our fishers at risk is not acceptable, that putting two of our area's most important industries and economic drivers and the workforce that supports them in jeopardy is not acceptable. The City of Newport met for a special session last week with over 800 members of the community in attendance. One result of that meeting was a proclamation this week emphasizing that the proposed detention center is not compatible with the values of the community. I would like to suggest a similar declaration that is also in alignment with the plan this council suggested 11 months ago, that focuses on Toledo's values, this council's values, and emphasizes how these activities by DHS will likely have long-lasting negative effects on our citizens, reaching far beyond immigration enforcement. At the end of this discussion, I would like to offer a motion that council schedules a special meeting to draft and approve an official statement from the city on these matters. That is all I have on this. Before we get into a more open discussion, I do want to make sure that I thank Mayor Cross and City Manager Huebner for ensuring this topic was on our agenda in a timely manner. I know that I submitted it slightly outside of the typical format for getting things onto an agenda in short time. Thank you to the council for its the council, which I know Stu Strom is here in the audience today, and he was part of that council 11 months ago that spoke very strongly in opposition to that Brown Roundup letter. And I just wanted to emphasize in a very official capacity my appreciation for that council's comments a year ago. And also want to thank all of you for your patience with me as I offered these lengthy remarks, and thank the many people in our community who have shown up, whether in person, at the meeting in Newport, or on social media, to voice their opinions regardless of what side of the issue they're on. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Council, do you want to go first, or do you want to hear from Mayor Kaplan?
I would like to hear from you.
Mayor Kaplan.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Andrew summed things up in a beautiful way. So hopefully I don't have to say as much other than everything that he's saying is ringing true. Well, the places that I would add is that City of Newport, our council has committed unanimously to do everything in our power to stop this development. And we have hired counsel, outside counsel. We'll be pursuing all legal remedies that can be pursued, and we're in it for the long run. One of the things I would emphasize is that we are dealing with an agency or a regime or whatever you want, administration that has treated us, the City of Newport, the County of Lincoln, and all of its surroundings with absolute disrespect and contempt. We still have not gotten anything in writing officially, or even a phone call. And that's us as a city, the county, our senators, our congresspeople, our governor, who has written again today to Secretary Noem, and we get no answers. That's not the way to start a relationship, and it's telling. It's telling that this is not have there's just zero caring, and nobody said, how would this affect you? So we're in it because we immediately have to get that helicopter back, and we need to do everything we can to do that. People will die, and it's the fishermen, it's the recreational fishers, it's the people, it's the surfers. Our economy here is based on the ocean, and to say, well, if you go in the ocean, you're on your own, is not the position that I think our communities and your community want to be in. And I understand, having talked with Mayor Cross, that many of our fishermen live in Toledo. So this is your citizens. I agree with Councilor Keating. It doesn't matter, there's lots of different opinions as to what we should do about immigration, what we should do about our borders, and they're valid discussions to be had. But how we treat and how our government treats citizens, and pulling people, out of their cars, throwing them in the street, and then finding out, then not knowing that they're criminals, and in fact finding out a good portion of the time that they are not, is not what we want in the streets of our cities. And so I would welcome any questions, for one thing, but I would welcome any kind of support that you as a council can lend to us to go on record. I would also say one of the things that we are working on right now is a mechanism for us to pursue this, and this, whatever length this may go, could run up a lot of legal bills. And we will be reaching out and looking to raise additional funds. We'll be, we've put up money that we have in emergency funds reserves. But what our neighbors can help with, what individuals can help with, and we don't yet have the mechanism to do that. We're working on that. Also with the concept, since we don't know how much will actually be needed, should there be overage, and this is something I'm proposing and I'm not getting any resistance on, should there be overage, we can set up some mechanism that if it's not here, they're going to go someplace else, and somebody else might need help. If we got money left over, we should be paying that forward. So, and I'm hoping that we raise some money and they say, oh, geez, as Councilor Hickman of our council said, they've underestimated us. I'll stop there because I really appreciate the opportunity, and any questions I'll be glad to answer.
Council, do you have any questions for Mayor Kaplan? Okay.
Just very grateful that you'd be here.
Yes. It's good to see you, Jan.
Good to see you.
There is a question online.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was hoping that we all stop and take a look at the water situation too, for any type of facility over there, and maybe be able to utilize that as something of an disagreement for any kind of building going in to the South Beach area. The Beaver Creek, I do believe, is the water source for that area, and it was not intended for this kind of use. So regardless, either they can build a desal plant and drink the ocean where we've been dumping out of the mill, or figure out some way to provide water over there. I mean, there's no services. We don't have the water. So, sir, I hope that that's part of the fight, is that we can't support anything like that here. We don't have enough water for us.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any comments?
One of the things that that Mayor Kaplan's comments got me also thinking about was our sheriff participated in a large conversation with the regional ICE office in Washington. I believe it was 38 sheriffs from around Oregon kind of got together to kind of call a meeting with the regional ICE officers to kind of find out what their plans are, how they're planning on, like what their operations look like, because there were a lot of concerns. And this is, I'm kind of regurgitating a little bit of how it was presented in the Lincoln Chronicle article that came out this week. But the main point that our sheriff had was that there's a lot of concerns for our citizens, for our law enforcement officers, a recognition that the tactics that are being used by ICE that we see on the news all the time involve often unmarked, unlicensed plated vehicles running other vehicles off the road. And that's a very hard thing for local law enforcement to know is a, say, lawful attempt at apprehending somebody. And there could be some serious safety concerns for our law enforcement who might try to intervene or might see something like that happen. And I apologize, this comment is going to be a little bit political, but one of the things that really sticks with me on this issue a lot is that the sort of selling point of immigration reform or immigration enforcement that ICE is supposedly going after is the idea of rooting out violent criminals and people who have done absolute horrible things to our society. Those are the people that our local law enforcement want to go after too. They do. Every single law enforcement officer in the country wants to get rid of the hardened, violent criminals, the murderers, the rapists, those people. So why not work with our local law enforcement? Why not collaborate? And a lot of that comes down to, I think, what we heard a little bit of Mayor Kaplan's comments, and also what I think we heard somewhat from the sheriff's office and from other law enforcement agencies around the country. It's because a lot of these tactics are tantamount to arresting people for driving while brown. And that's not probable cause, that's not a crime, that's not enough to run a family off the road violently, smash their window, and figure out the paperwork later. So there is a part of me that is also very much on the side of saying, if ICE was coming here with good intentions for the citizens of our country, work with law enforcement, work with our local governments, show us good faith, and we'll show it back.
So my remarks are going to be strictly from a practical and logistical standpoint. This move to try and put a detention facility in Newport is so disingenuous that it goes beyond the pale, in my opinion. Number one, we're in a tsunami zone. We're in an earthquake-prone zone. So why would you want to put people there if you're trying to keep them safe and out of harm? Secondly, as anyone who lives here knows, our healthcare system is already stretched to its absolute limits servicing who does live in this county. If we add another, I don't care how many, if you've seen us in the summertime and watch how the ER and the urgent care works in Newport, we don't have enough healthcare in this county to cover an additional however many people you add to it. That's obvious. Those are obvious things. Thirdly, and the thing that really irritates me is the moving of the helicopter, A, without notice, B, without reason, and C, with absolutely no input from what I've been able to tell, talking with Coast Guard officials in other places on this coast, without their knowledge beforehand. Okay? So you've removed the lone helicopter from the busiest fishing point on the entire Oregon coast. Okay? We used to have one in Astoria, one in Newport, and one in North Bend. Okay? We could get almost anywhere on the coast within that 30-minute time period. They removed the one from Coos Bay. The one in Astoria is now up the river. It's not out on the point of Astoria anymore. So even in Astoria, to cover the Columbia Bar, they're 15 minutes out. Instead of it used to be 5 minutes out. And if any of you have been over the Columbia Bar, to say that the boats go surfing to get across that thing is an understatement. That's why they have to have river pilots, because that bar is buku dangerous, not just a little bit. You've lived here long enough to know that, number one, I'm just going to do a rough guess. By the middle of February, if we were on the East Coast, we've already gone through the entire 26 letters of the alphabet to name storms, because gale force storms are pretty frequent here around the first of the year and from December down through, okay? So the odds of someone drowning is huge because of the weather conditions we have. So moving that helicopter is tantamount to saying we don't care. And the last time I checked, that was the job of the Coast Guard. It's because they go into that service because they care. They want to help people. And now they're taking and having hands put behind their back for no good reason. We need to get back to where there's a helicopter in Astoria, there's a helicopter here, there's a helicopter in North Bend, and preferably one down in Brookings to help cover the Crescent City and all of that goes on in that area. That is what would be, in a tactical mind, efficient. But trying to put a detention facility in Newport is probably one of the weirdest things anybody could ever have done. Number one, we don't have the infrastructure for it. Ms. George pointed out one of the many things that we don't have. Our summers are already stretched for water, as we learned this year. Okay? We are already on the edge every summer on water. Okay? We can't add that. But here we are, we're being told that we're going to do that. That is wrong. That is short-sighted. It's not the process that the federal government, at least in my lifetime, generally goes through when they want to site a facility. They usually talk to Congress first. They don't usually start by saying, here, this is what we're going to do. As the person who brought up the Brown Roundup, and thank you for raising my blood pressure because the memories all hit back. We are not those people. We believe in what the Constitution says and what our Declaration of Independence says, that all men are created equal. All of us. And I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care if you're male, female, or whatever you want to call yourself. We are all here. We are equals, and we need to be treated as such. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Burns so I can breathe. Jackie?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilors. Hey, I'm really struggling here because it seems like it's really two separate issues. One, the number one that's paramount is that Newport cannot support a detention center, period, regardless of what it was there for. And the other part of it is rounding up the illegal immigrants, two separate issues. And so when we're looking at this situation, I think it behooves us to separate them. That, deportation is going to happen, and that, but it doesn't have to mean that Lincoln County would be the host of the detention center. And I really hope that we're able to separate them out. That it isn't a matter of it's all or nothing. Because, like I said, our country has been burdened heavily by open borders. So with that being said, we need to do something, whether it's being done the right way or not. I'm not even going to get into that. Yet it is necessary. And so I just really hope that we as a council can take that into consideration, that it's really about the detention center and all of the things that it would bring problematic to our county. That's all I have to say about that for now.
Thank you, Jackie. Mayor Kaplan.
Thank you, and I hope I'm not intruding, but I really appreciate this. One factor that I think we need to be aware of is that we're a sanctuary state, and we all know what that kind of means. But in the case of a criminal warrant, our law enforcement are not restricted because so to the degree that if we have violent criminals that need to be removed, our sanctuary laws do not stand in the way of that. But when we start pulling in every person who is of brown skin or speaks a little differently, and then hope that maybe we caught somebody, that's not the way to go. Whatever the policies and our feelings about that, because I could get pulled out as easily as anybody else. My skin's pretty dark, especially in the summer. And I worry about that. And I know we have folks, we have received and I'll shut up because this is your meeting. Of the over 300 emails that we received relating to this issue, more than half, significantly more than half, were for visitors. Both in terms of visitors and our own population, they were opposed to this. But it was a significant number, and that was well over 100 folks who said, if this happens, I would not want to spend my money. I would not want to come to Newport. I would not want to take the chance of my children being in the streets of Newport and witnessing. So I'll be quiet, but when this is not about getting in the way of removing the worst of the worst, it's protecting the best of the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Hi.
Yes.
I just wanted to respond with a lot of gratitude for Councillor Burns's comments. I really appreciated them. And I think that, as I mentioned, I think my goal, and I know we want to be able to open this up to public comment for this topic before we would take any votes on this matter. But as I mentioned, I think my intention in bringing this is that I would like to move that we have a special meeting scheduled between now and our next city council meeting so that we can be in support of the efforts of our county and in support of the people in our community at a time that it is most effective, where we could work out what the actual language or what that message of our official stance as a city is. So Jackie, I think really that's something that we can sit down together with. It's not to be solved tonight, but to be able to kind of give our city attorney or city manager, a go-ahead to say, come to us with some ideas of how we could frame this based on the conversation that we've had and what is happening in our county right now. And let's work on that together in a special session that's dedicated to that. So I hope that satisfies your concerns about what that language could look like and how we can shape that.
So you said something about before our next meeting. There ain't a whole lot of days between here and there that we can actually hold meetings.
I was going to bring that up. Thank you,
I was just
Councilor.
looking at the calendar. I'm like, no, wait, we don't have one next week because of Thanksgiving, so it might be tough to get it before the 3rd.
So I really appreciated Councilor Keating, the clarification you gave there at the end of your comments, because when I first heard you mention a special meeting, I was thinking that you were wanting to have had something prepared and for council to read and act on rather than workshop. the message that you were going for. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're thinking maybe having a special meeting to have that open discussion, that workshop, that then staff might be able to bring something at your meeting on December 3rd for council to act on. Is that what you were envisioning?
I think that's good, yeah.
Okay. So to Councilor Sylvia's point, and I was actually gonna mention myself, and I think at least a few of the staff are going to be taking Wednesday the 26th as an out of office day. We could potentially hold that meeting on the Monday the 24th or Tuesday the 25th, depending on council's availability. I don't know that we would need anybody beyond myself, the city recorder, and the city attorney. I would need to confirm their availability, but they're both with us tonight. So I would be open to council's feedback on your availability on those days.
I would recommend Monday because I know Councilor Sylvia has something he has to do on Tuesday night.
I do.
Yes, you do. I'll explain it to you later.
Well, on Monday, I have my torture for physical therapy in the morning, so.
Well, no,
have to be
it would
after
be later.
Is there anything I have to do?
I don't know. I just know what I
didn't know if you were doling out assignments
You've got the
or.
dessert auction Tuesday night. If you don't show up with your kids, somebody's going to get irritated.
Oh, I didn't know what it was.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is council available on Monday the 24th?
Yes.
Yes.
Paul, are you available that
You
evening?
good?
What time are we talking?
I believe we would be looking at probably 6 p.m. and a normal meeting start time.
Yeah, that would be okay.
No.
Would,
Oh, okay,
would 6 p.m. work, Counselor?
I'll make it work.
Thank you very much. And City Attorney Miller, are you available on the evening of the 24th?
Monday.
I believe that I am. It'd be 6
p.m. Washington, Oregon Pacific time?
Thank you.
I say that because the city attorney is in New Mexico at the moment, so she's an hour ahead of us.
Is it warm there?
It was a
Probably
little chilly,
warmer
but it
than
was
here.
sunny.
Depends on where you're at in New Mexico and whether it's warm.
And thank you all for your willingness to do this. And Rob just confirmed me that since we worked that out by consensus, that a motion isn't necessary.
Right.
So if my language suggested a motion, I now withdraw that.
You mentioned that you were planning a motion, but I don't think you made one officially, but thank you. So I will ask the city recorder tomorrow to please issue a special meeting notice for that evening, 6 p.m.
And label it as a workshop.
Yes.
Would you rather have a work session or a special meeting?
I'd call it a work session.
I have a
Yes, sir.
suggestion on that. So if we call it a special meeting, it gives us the ability to make a decision. And the only reason I suggest that as being an option is that we could theoretically come up with the nature of our message and direct the city staff to execute it.
Well, that can also be done with consensus. That doesn't have to be done with a motion.
Okay.
I would mention that officially it does have to be a special meeting because any meeting that's not at your regular meeting schedule is by definition of the law designated as a special meeting. So we can advertise it as a special workshop.
Okay.
I feel extra special now.